Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again with a pretty late follow-up video for the Doryani Fist Ignite Stormfire Zerker mana stacking slam build. And it was okay. Like, nothing really special about it, I'm afraid. I can't write sing its praises too much because it had some decent burn, it had some pretty decent, overlap, and sometimes it had some really satisfying clear, but for the most part, I don't think it really excelled in anything too well. Like, it was just kind of a meme build and something that you could maybe make work to a workable extent. I did have some fun playing it. I loved putting it together. I loved the early levels. Once we got into kind of red maps, it was a bit clumsy from time to time because you had to line up the right sort of attacks, line up the right sort of war cries, and avoid certain big packs of monsters that could kill you before you got a chance to slam on them. I hit level 92 in the end, about 15 deaths in red to high tier red maps. Most of them were just from like a couple of maps that were pretty bad here or there, and it was rather decent in heist as well. And overall, it would have been fairly worth doing, I think, if my single target was a lot better. But it wasn't that special. I think, according to my POB, I've got about 3 million Ignite DPS, but that is if you have all the correct lineups. The last Warcry for Seismic Cry, and then Elemental Overload up and all of that, and it's pretty situational. A lot of the time I can get that first attack off, but on a Awakened 8 Conqueror, that means I'll take down about 40% of his life, and then I have to still get a follow-up few slams in, and it ends up being just a little bit awkward. Whereas if you're some other Ignite build, like let's say a Fireball or a Burning Arrow, it's pretty easy to just throw out another fat Ignite again and keep doing your maximum damage. So overall, it did feel a bit scuffed. Like I said though, for some of these maps you can see it should be pretty damn satisfying clear. They did have big thick Ignites, and double Beyonds were really nice because we just melt the enemy bosses really quick. Some of these like red beasts you could see can insta die, and it just depends. There are situations where the Ignite damage is insane, and then on some higher content it's a little bit less insane. And Metamorphs, for example, some of these map tier bosses as well, would just get obliterated, and that was pretty good. I was pretty happy with that. And it's just a unique-ish sort of take on the build, so that's good too. But like I said, it doesn't really pay off the way I was hoping it would. With this sort of a playstyle, with this sort of a slow attack, with this sort of a wind-up, I would have expected it, or hoped it would be more like the Ice Crash Facebreaker build, which was hitting for like 40 million damage average, and could one-shot all those bosses. And the only real main difference is this is Ignite Prolif, whereas that was just straight chunky one-shots. So it just has a slightly different feel to it, the way things die, but ultimately it's the same sort of playstyle. There's just a lot bigger payoff in that build. And don't get me wrong, I do still love the Ignite Prolif side of things, and it was pretty satisfying. Like I said, I'm just not sure it's worth doing, or copying rather. I really don't want to give you guys a false impression of what a build might be off of a few clips. Overall, I'm not terribly sure you should be copying it unless you're just going pure memes. And I did also explore the non-mana side of things, so just no mana stacking, no Mind of the Council, and try and stack more flat lightning and a bit more life. And as far as I can tell, Arcane Cloak is a really big single button to press for damage output, and without that mana stack it becomes hard to make up that Arcane Cloak loss, as well as Mind of the Council of course too. But currently it'd be tough to get another couple of thousand life points and then a whole bunch of flat lightning to make it better, as far as I can tell anyway. So the mana stack I think was still worth it, but you can see for example here, after the first hit does not kill the boss instantly, I then have to wind up another few Seismic Cry attacks, and it's pretty damn tough to do that under the pressure situations. So some of the conquerors felt a bit sketchy, some of the bosses felt a bit sketchy. Heist itself was actually pretty decent for the most part, and we're hard carried by Enduring Cry and Arcane Cloak. But then Cirrus himself was one of the most uncomfortable Cirruses I'd probably ever had to do. I mean, I've had some bad ones, and this was just yet another one of those, because we're certainly not one-shotting him. We're not even one-shotting the phases. It takes about a couple of big slams to do one phase, and you know, if everything lines up, that's not too bad. But on the last phase of the A8 Cirrus, it is just an absolute mess, because I cannot ever get the right amount of slams going, and as soon as I get a really big ignite off, he poofs away and does some other fucking attack. So it is super unfriendly for any build that needs a little bit of wind up or a bit of a rotation, and this is exactly one of those. It was fun though. It took me 5 portals, or 5 deaths rather. It took all 6 portals, and it was ridiculous. But fun to watch, I suppose. Overall, it was just not something I could ever wish upon someone else, because it is infuriating the way Cirrus just keeps cycling from one attack to the other. I need to be able to get a maximum ignite off at a moment's notice, and I just can't seem to do that. I do die at the end of this clip as well, and I will also just mention that I played a little bit of a Frostbolt character on Quinn's Z DPS League, and that functions very similar to, just say, the way I built Crackling Lance. You go some Intensify, you go some cast speed, and then you play around with some Frostbolt, and you can definitely do that if you want to try some self-cast Frostbolt action as well, but I don't think it's really worth putting up an entire video for. So that was the build. That is the Ignite Fisting. Hope you guys enjoyed the little wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.